All right, team. Hope you had a fun lunch. Any preferences for dish? What was the best dish?
The ice cream.
The ice cream. Okay, I'm very offended that you didn't like the Indian food. Anything else? Any favorite dishes?
I love the paneer tikka bowls, whatever they were.
Paneer, yeah, exactly. Chili paneer. Very, very exciting. Never had that at a summit before either. All right, so hope you've had your ice cream, hope you had your food. Now, for those of you who are sitting on chairs, you would have seen, hopefully, either on your chair or the chair next to you, a card which says Ninja Bingo on it. Okay? If you can't find a card, please raise your hand. It's okay. Don't be shy. All right, so hopefully all of you have cards or somebody next to you has a card. Now, the key is, and we've, again, never done this before because usually everybody just plays individually, but this time we're going to play in teams of 2, all right? So find a partner, and it has to be somebody you don't know, all right? Find a partner and play this game with them. So you got to find people who are either, who love to dance or who have a brother or who have a sister. Yeah, I have some pens if you'd like. If you need a pen, find me at the front. But we're going to play and we get some music. Ben, let's get some music and let's go. We have 10 minutes to do this. The winners receive prizes from Nando's and from the Real Pet Food Company and from Law Ninjas and from other sources. The prizes are great. If you can't find somebody with a card, yep, we'll get you a card. Hi team, if you need pens, I've got pens. They're not high quality, but they do the job. All right, winners receive prizes. Winners receive prizes. And if you can't find somebody, then there's lots of people outside who don't know what's going on inside. So do find them, especially the sponsors. They look pretty interesting and they probably have brothers and sisters and are wearing black socks. So find the sponsors, find the people. 8 minutes on the clock. Let's see how we go. Let's go. Are you playing by yourself?
Yes.
You can do teams. Yeah, pairs. Find a pair. It'll make your life easier. Sean, do you have a pair? Do you have okay, excellent. Priya, do you have a partner? Excellent. Do you have a partner, Jerry? There you go. Savvy. You've got a partner. Yeah. All right. Keep going. This is great. You're not playing. Play, grab a card. I don't know if we have any left, but find a partner. Come on. All right, I can see some great progress. You got to catch up, team. Whoever doesn't have a team member or doesn't have a card, find me. I'm kind of loitering at the back, but I will find you. All right. I can see a card there going to waste. Come on, let's play. All right, how are we going? By the way, if anybody finishes their card, please run up to the stage. Then it has to be checked, and then if you win, you win. If you don't win, you have to walk back in an embarrassed way. All right, I can see some folks at the back who are not really playing, but that's okay. You can find a team. Just tag on to a winning team, and then you can get some prizes as well. All right. Ooh, doing very well here. Just a few left. Excellent. Thank you. Let's go. Oh, doing very well. Anybody close to finishing? It looks like it. You have 4 minutes. Let's go. All right, the prizes are ready. All right, wow. Lawyers can be so competitive, right? Come up to the stage. You got to get up to the stage. Team, you got to be quick. I think we've got some winners already, still to be decided. Oh, okay, we've got one. Is this just you or is there a team?
A team, but we were sharing.
Okay. Do you want to write the team members' names? Yeah, come. Yep. Hand it in. Donnie and Steven, all right. Oh, just two of you, right? Okay. That's okay. You filled this one out, right? That's fine. Okay, one more card. You got one? Oh, we're here. Yeah, just give me one card. It's fine. So Sally and Ruth, right? Okay. All right. Just fill in the time finish for me. It's okay. 2:27 or whatever. I've got 2:26 on this one, so. All right, one more. Let's go. Ooh, is it in? Your name. Both names. Yeah, thank you. Sis, and what's? Yasmin, okay. All right, thank you. Write your name. I'll give you something. All right, team, time is up. Write your name. Time is up. So please have a seat. Write your name. Oh, okay. Nah, it's okay. Do you have a teammate? Or was it just you? All right, thank you. Excellent. All right, please have a seat. Well done. Wow, so competitive. You're probably not going to get a prize, but thank you for that. Have a seat. Please have a seat. But thank you. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm getting lots of complaints that we don't have more awards for people, but thank you for playing. Did anyone meet someone new just now? Excellent. Yes. Lawyers are really competitive, right? I could see pushing, I could see shoving, I could see like punches being thrown in the back. Really well done. All right, so we have lots of cards here, but I have, I think, 3 proper prizes and then some makeshift prizes that I've had to think of on the fly. Our first winners, and if I call up your names, please do come up and collect your prize. The first winners, and they came in just 30 seconds before who came second. Sally and Ruth, big round of applause, please. All right, so Sally and Ruth, come on down. You get a limited edition Locadia Bluey, which you have to share, and I guess every year you kind of hand it to the other because there's only one of them. And then also, you get a gift hamper, which is a brown paper bag, with Relativity socks from the Relativity team outside. Two, I can give you another pair. 1 sock each. 2 bottles of chili sauce from the Nando's team. Where's Courtney? Nando's. Thank you, Nando's. And then also, you might not have heard of this company called Fun Lab, but they're the parent company of Holy Moly, Strike Bowling, Archie Brothers, Hijinks Hotel, and all these other great concepts. So Marnie, who's the GC who couldn't be here today, she gave us lots of gift cards. So Hijinks Hotel gift cards in here as well, which are divisible by 2, so you should be okay. So thank you so much. Stay up here. We have our second prize, Stephen, Dudley, and Donnie. Please do come up. All right. You get everything other than the Locadia Bluey, so thank you so much. Chili sauce, yeah, exactly. Well done, well done. Yeah, Locadia, you can give her a Bluey, a small one. Excellent. Third prize is Cicely and Yasmin. Please come up, please come up. Excellent, all right. You get everything other than probably the socks. So well done, great job, thank you so much. And then we've got another prize, but what's interesting is that this prize is conditional on the fact that you have to have a pet, because I only have pet food left. Do you have a pet? Okay, but you didn't come fourth or fifth or, yeah. Okay, it's okay, we'll figure something out. Simran and Ivanka, where are you, where are you? Yeah, there you go. Ivana, sorry, Simran and Ivana. So this is the last prize. Do you have pets? I don't have a pet. Okay, time to get a pet. Yeah, get a pet. No, it's okay. We'll get you some socks and I'll get you some vouchers later as well. Let me just put it together for you. But I'll give you some pet food as well. Get a dog. Yeah? Excellent. All right. Thank you so much and hope you had fun. Big round of applause for everybody for playing. And the people outside who didn't play, let's boo them later. Okay. So the next session, and this is quite a shift in gears, is, let's talk about the next session. It's about how to exhale stress and inhale clarity for lawyers. And our speaker is, actually I have a few more slides, but let's skip them. Okay, so how lawyers can exhale stress and inhale clarity. Our speaker is Niti Naraja, who you might have seen in the workshops downstairs. The former GC, a trainer, coach, advocate on DEI and many other things, including breath work, which I believe is really, really important for all of us stressed out lawyers and professionals to learn. She did a great session yesterday for the law firm lawyers, and they loved it because they're always stressed out. But I think GCs and in-house lawyers, you guys are stressed too, right? So thank you. Please, round of applause for Niti.
Thanks, Rohan. Okay, so a few years ago when I was practicing law full-time, if someone had told me that I would be coaching lawyers, talking to lawyers about diversity, and taking people through breathwork, I honestly would have scoffed because it was so far from my reality. But here we are, and I'm about to take you through some breathwork very soon. So you might be wondering, how did I get into breathwork, or why breathwork? And honestly, breathwork found me because of personal reasons. I was going through a marital separation last year, and things were incredibly, incredibly difficult. For those of you who were here yesterday, apologies, you're going to hear my story again. But I was dealing with a lot of emotional and mental distress, and then at a point during the year, started to also feel the impact of that physically, because this is often what happens when you're dealing with mental and emotional issues. Your body starts to break down as well, which is what started to happen for me. And I go to a Pilates studio, so I had to call them and say, look, I can't come in again. I'm sorry, I have to suspend my membership again. And they said, not to worry, but why don't you come in? Because we're starting to experiment with some breath work. Why don't you see if it helps? Maybe it'll help, whatever's going on for you. And so I did, and what then happened was pretty miraculous, because I would go to these sessions, which were only about 40-ish minutes long, and after the session I was like, actually my back feels better, the nerve pain I was experiencing has seemed to disappear. But then a few days later it would come back again, and so I was like, well, there must be a way to do this more frequently, because I'm just using what's inside my body to, create these effects. And so I went down this whole journey, or down this rabbit hole of exploring the world of breathwork and learning more and more and more. And at a point in time, I actually had this pretty phenomenal experience, which was unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. And I don't know how many people in the room have done much breathwork before, but you can experience quite altered states of consciousness when you do breathwork. And so I had what I have since described as an experience of breath orcism, or having my emotions exorcised out of my body by breath. Because literally I was in this session, and one moment I was breathing, and the next moment I was like, breathe, scream, breathe, scream, breathe, scream, probably frightening my kids to death, mind you, who were in the house at the time. But I realized after that session just how miraculous our breath actually is. and just how much I actually wish that years ago when I was working as a lawyer in private practice and later in-house and going through stress and burnout and all the rest of it, which I'm sure many of us in the room have experienced at a point in time, that I had some of these techniques available to me to help me through some of those difficult moments. So as lawyers, we work in pretty high-pressured environments. We're expected to remain composed, to be objective, to not miss the details. But we're expected to do that whilst life continues and whilst we're dealing with everything that's also going on in our personal lives or the things that might be going on at work as well. And no one really teaches us how to manage that or what to do with that. How do we regulate our nervous system? How do we manage our emotions through those situations? And this is where breathwork can really help. And it's available to all of us. So what is breathwork? Essentially what it is, it's consciously using your breath to impact your emotional, your physical, and your mental states. Now, when we breathe intentionally, we can shift the way our nervous system responds in different situations. Now, many of you will be familiar with the idea of slowing down your breathing in order to regulate your emotions and to regulate your nervous system. Take a deep breath is something many of us will have been told or may have even told others in our lives as well. But your breath is infinitely more powerful than just slow breathing. Slow breathing is incredibly powerful, incredibly useful, but there are many other breathing techniques that can also do wonders for you. So, faster breathing techniques. Some of you may have heard of Wim Hof, who does some faster breathing techniques. There's also a lot of shamanic breathing that uses faster breathing techniques as well. Now, when you use fast breathing, that can actually boost energy, it can provide you with more clarity, and it can also help you to release a lot of what's going on in our bodies. When we do traditional therapy and we talk, we're talking from here. We're talking from our consciousness, what's stored in our minds. When you do things like somatic work or when you do breath work, you can actually start to release what's going on inside you and what's stored deep within. And then there's also holding one's breath, or as my trainer has described it, blowing the roof off. Now, holding one's breath can be uncomfortable, and we will explore this in the breath work. So it can be uncomfortable, but it can also be really, really, really powerful, because you get to recalibrate what's going on in your body. So you create more oxygenation in your body, which is obviously really beneficial from a health perspective for your organs, for your heart, etc. So we live in a world where most of us overbreathe. There's research that shows that about a century ago, we used to breathe about 6 breaths a minute. Nowadays, we breathe somewhere between 12 to 20 breaths a minute. So things have really changed. We've just started to breathe more. And medically, there's evidence to suggest that the less you breathe, the better it is for your health, generally. Also, a lot of us use our mouth to breathe versus our nose. So in exercise, whilst we're sleeping, just as we're going about our day, the more we can become conscious around how we're using our nose and our mouth as we go through the day, and also what's happening whilst we sleep, the better it is for us in the longer term. So our breath is incredibly powerful. For years, this is something that spiritual teachers, ascetics, scholars have used and taught other people, but it's something that's often been shrouded in mystery where the everyday person is concerned. But this is really starting to shift. It's really changing. And, you know, it is something that is becoming more mainstream. You may have seen more breath work, places, classes, etc., being advertised, etc. It is something that is very much entering the mainstream. But more than just attending a class, it's about changing the way you relate to your breath. How can you understand the way you breathe better, and how can you change that? So, I'm going to take you through some breath work today. A few things before we start. One, this is just a taster. So this is just a sample of what you can experience through breath work. You'll probably all have very different experiences. Some of you may experience more, some of you may experience less. Some people may get emotional, some people might feel the same as I did before. It is a very individual thing, so it is your experience and no one else's experience that matters today. Now, if you're not seated and if you want to participate in the breathwork, I recommend please taking a seat. Don't really want anyone falling over doing breathwork standing, ideally. I'm also going to suggest if you've got phones or paper or anything on you, anything that could be distracting, just put it to a side. It's 10 to 12 minutes, won't be terribly long. If you've got your legs crossed, I recommend uncrossing them. Just get yourself as comfortable as you can and we can start the music. All right, so if you could all just get comfortable in your seats and just start to close down your eyes if you haven't already. And just start paying attention to what's going on in your body. Are you feeling tension anywhere? How are you breathing? Are you feeling lightness, heaviness, ease, tension, stress? If there is tension, can you direct your breath to those spots and breathe into them to help those muscles relax? And just start to slowly just deepen your breath, paying attention to it. Just allowing your body to get heavier. In a moment, what we're going to do, and I'll cue you in, is we're going to take 6 really big breaths. So a really big inhale through our nose and a really big exhale through our mouth. At the end of those 6 breaths, we're going to hold on the exhale, and then we're going to inhale another big breath, hold on the inhale, and then slowly release through our mouth. I'll cue you in. So on your next exhale, if you can just gently hold your breath. And then let's go in through your nose, big breath, out through your mouth, another big breath out. In and out through your mouth. And in through your nose and out through your mouth. In and out. In and out. And one last one. In, and on the out, hold your breath. And then in, big breath in, and hold at the top of the inhale. And then very, very, very slowly just release that breath. And just return to a normal breath now, just breathing normally. And in a moment, we're going to change things up and we're going to start breathing a lot faster. So the way this is going to look is we're going to breathe in through our nose with a sniff, and we're going to breathe out through our mouths with a sigh. So it's going to sound like this. So on your next exhale, if you could meet me there, again, just holding your breath. And then let's go. in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. And on your next exhale, just hold your breath. And as you hold your breath, you might feel some different sensations in your body. You might feel some tingling. It's all completely normal. And if you're holding, you can now release your breath. And just breathe normally for a moment. And in a moment, we're going to do that all over again. So on your next exhale, meet me there again, just holding for a second. And then we're going to go again. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Keep breathing. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. And on your next exhale, just hold your breath again. Just holding that breath for as long as you can. If you feel a need to breathe, then return to a normal breath, but if you can keep holding, keep holding. And in a moment, when we release this breath, we're going to take a big inhale, and then we're going to breathe out through pursed lips very slowly. So if you're still holding, you can release your breath now. Just release. Just breathe normally for a moment. And then we're going to inhale together. In, and then out through pursed lips. In, and out through pursed lips again. Inhale again. And out through pursed lips. Inhale, and out again. Inhale, and just breathing normally now, just returning to a normal breath. And now we're going to really slow things down. And in a moment, we'll breathe in for 5, and then we'll breathe out for 5, all through our nose. So on your next exhale, if you can just meet me there, just holding gently. And then let's go together. In, 2, 3, 4, 5, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5. And keep breathing at that rhythm. In for 5 and out for 5. And I invite you now to bring your hand and place it over your heart. And as you breathe, if you can bring into your mind something, someone, a place, a moment that brings you joy, happiness, love, peace, calm, something, someone that makes you smile. And just lean into that feeling as you keep breathing. Just letting that feeling wash over you. Being with that person in that moment, in that place, whatever it might be. Nothing else matters in this moment. It's just you, your breath, and your emotions. Let whatever's coming up come up for you. And keep breathing. In for 5, out for 5. And if you feel a need to smile, smile. Because you can let go. Just breathe and feel. Just let go. And if you feel a need to move your fingers, your toes, your neck, your shoulders, just let it happen. Just do whatever your body needs. But keep breathing. And very, very slowly, you can start to bring a little bit of awareness into your body. Keeping your eyes closed for now, just gently bringing awareness back into the room. And only as and when you're ready to do so, and very, very slowly, very, very gently, you can start to open your eyes and come back into the room. Welcome back. If we can turn down the music now, please. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that. It's a different pace to everything else we've been doing today. But I hope that's brought you, it could have brought you all sorts of different things. I don't know what it's brought you individually, but maybe a bit of calm, maybe a bit of peace, maybe a bit of clarity, maybe even some focus as you go through the rest of the afternoon. Possibly some emotions. I could see maybe some tears. Whatever it is that it's brought you, I hope it helped. And I wanted to leave you with just a tip for how you can use breathing going forward, because my whole belief with breathwork is it's not like a yoga class where you go to a class and then you don't do it again for a week. If you really want to use your breath effectively, you've got to try and bring it into your daily life somehow. And there are ways to do this, and there are ways to do it simply and effectively. And one of the methods that's been one of the most researched methods of breathwork is actually what you did at the very end of the session, which is called heart coherence breathing. And so there's a lot of science and scientific research and studies that have been done that show that there's a real connection that happens between the heart and the mind and the body and the breath when you do this style of breathing. So one of the studies that they talk about is this police officer who works in, or who was working in domestic violence sort of areas, and they were tracking his cortisol levels as he went about his job. And so when he was in a particular situation, which was, you know, a domestic violence situation, and he was handling that, his cortisol levels would go through the roof. But the minute he left that situation, because he'd learned this form of breathing technique, he would sit and do this breathing technique for a few minutes, and his cortisol levels would go all the way back down again. And so you can see how effective that could be, both at work, but also in your personal lives. I mean, you know, argument with the partner, it's a good thing to do after that. It's a good thing to do beforehand. I was saying yesterday, I often, because I was talking about my separation before, I often do this breathing technique on the way to my ex's house to prepare. But you can do it before big situations. Like if you've got a big negotiation coming up or a big trial, it's a great thing to do beforehand. If you're going to have a difficult conversation with a team member or a manager, again, it's a great thing to do beforehand, and it's a great thing to do afterwards, just to down-regulate your nervous system. So the recommendation with this style of breathing, I'm going to move out the way so you can actually hopefully see it, is to do it 3 times a day, ideally. Ideally, you want to do it for 3 minutes minimum. If you can do it only for a minute, that's better than nothing. So 3 to 5 minutes is ideal. You want to do it 3 times a day. Now, the recommendation is you do it in the first hour of waking, you do it just before lunch, and you do it in the transition between day and evening. Now, the reason for this is the first hour of waking, what happens when we wake up is our body goes, oh, I'm awake, okay, get up. And when you get up, all the cortisol in your body goes whoom, through the roof. And so if you do this breathing technique 3 minutes in the morning, in the first hour, it's going to mean that that spike isn't going to be as large. So you're going to reduce the amount of cortisol that arises in your body. So that's the first time you want to do it. I often do it in bed before I get out of bed. It's an easy thing to do in bed before you wake up. For those of you who have young kids, because this came up yesterday, yes, I know that can be a challenge. I have young kids too. But it is 3 minutes. You know, so if you can find 3 minutes, or even after you get out of bed, if you can do it, I don't know, whilst you're making a cup of tea or something. There are ways to bring it into your daily life. Find a habit that you have in your life and put it together with that habit. Before lunch, really useful, because it can help with the after lunch slump, doing it then. And then transition between day and evening, just to break up the day and to enter your evening with a different energy and rhythm. Now, I've also referenced there a track called 2 Bells, which is on Spotify. The thing about this track is it's great because it does the counting for you. So it's got 2 bells that just chime on the 5. So you can just stick the track on, you don't have to count, you can just breathe to the bells. So I highly recommend trying to incorporate that into your daily life if you can. It's very useful. I've also attached a QR code, that's just to my website if you do want to learn more about breathwork. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg, what we did today. The ideal goal with breathwork is you retrain the way you breathe. And so instead of perhaps breathing 15 breaths a minute, perhaps you can bring that down a bit. And then there's studies that show if people have inflammation, if you've got asthma, if you've got other health conditions as well, there's a lot of evidence that shows that these things can improve dramatically just by retraining the way you breathe. So I wanted to leave you with that today as a tip to take away. I hope you enjoyed the session, and I will pass back over to Rohan.
Big round of applause for Niti, please.
So I was sneaky. I didn't do the exercise, and I was just watching all of you, which is kind of creepy. But yeah, I did see a lot of different reactions, a lot of different emotions, and the same thing yesterday as well. So it was really nice. And Niti, thank you so much. All right, so Before we break into our separate workshop / panel groups, we've got a video from our friends at Relativity. Man, hit it. Excellent, thank you. And now it's time to break into our groups. So right here in the Ninja Arena, we've got how to measure value from new tech and generative AI. And then downstairs in the secret room, we've got the reality of loneliness, stress, and mental health in the legal industry with 4 amazing speakers. So you have to make a decision now. See you in a couple of minutes. So downstairs, the reality of loneliness, stress, and mental health with speakers from MetLife, Lynn Fox Armaguard, Oxford Properties Group, and Prince Group. And then right here, we've got more on tech and AI.
Two.
Also, if you were sitting here and you had a bag or a coat here, we've just kind of moved it either to the side or it's on the other side of this wall, okay? So don't stress. It is here. It's just on the other side of the wall. All right, so if you're in this room, you're going to hear about tech and AI. And if you're downstairs, you're going to learn about loneliness, stress, and mental health, which is a nice segue from our session on breathwork just now. So make a decision. It's not too late if you want to move or if you want to stay. Excellent. Hope you like Def Leppard. I love Def Leppard. All right, okay. I think everybody's made their decision. Let's get on with it. How to measure value from new tech and generative AI. Our moderator is Ryan Doherty, Senior Account Executive at Relativity. Our panelists are Ninja Black, Ivana Jip, former Associate GC for APJ at Boomi, Katrina Gowans, Co-Chair at Clock Australia, and former Director of Legal Operations for APAC at IFM Investors, Marty Gardner, Group GC for Disputes at Woolworths, and Michael Gilday, General Counsel and Head of Property at the Sydney Fish Market. If you've just joined us, which some of you have during lunch, 40 minutes at the 20-minute mark, we'll ask for questions from the audience, and then also hopefully at the end. Without further ado, Ryan, over to you.
Thank you. How good was the breath work? I did it yesterday. I really got some value out of it. But thank you everyone for joining us today. Look, welcome to today's session on measuring value from new tech and generative AI. As General Counsel, you're navigating increasing demands while facing a lot of rapid technological change. It's been a pretty common discussion point today, right? Today, we'll cut through the hype and focus on practical insights that you can apply immediately. Before we begin, a brief word about Relativity, and maybe just a brief show of hands. Who here has heard of Relativity, perhaps used it? Cool. Any use cases, people that may have not have used it before, that have had, I need to review 1 million documents in a few weeks, a few thousand documents? Yep. Understand. Okay. Well, thanks, and it'd be great to speak to a lot of you later on. But we're just out there by the corner, and thank you so much for being here today. AI-powered solutions, they help general accounts like you streamline document review, automate workflows, and extract deeper insights for your data. We're committed to helping you not just adapt to technological change, but leverage it strategically. I think I might pass over to our other panellists now just for a brief introduction. So I might start with Katrina.
Thanks, Ryan. Hello, everybody. I'm Katrina Gowans. I am one of the privileged co-chairs of the Corporate Legal Operations Consortium, CLOC. Legal ops, if you don't know, I say is the business of law. The lawyers do the what, I do the how. So I spend a lot of my day thinking, living, even dreaming about technology, value, metrics. So this topic today is right up my alley. I've got to confess up front though, I don't know the answer, but I'm really excited about the conversation because in our pre-work, I've got lots of great ideas from the panellists.
Thanks, Katrina. I'm Ivana. I am a legal ops fan, as I love all anything to do with technology and legal. I was the former AGC at Boomi, a US tech headquartered company, and I've floated around different in-house roles at tech companies in the past.
Thanks, guys. Marty Gardner. I run the disputes function at Woolies, which has been busy the last 12 months in particular. I love AI and I love anything that makes my job easier, which is relativity for one, but all those tools, and happy to be here to have a chat about it.
Thank you.
Hi, Mike Gilday. I'm not an AI expert, and I'm in awe of some of the panel members that have got a lot more experience than I do, but I am a user of legal services as well as being a lawyer myself, and I have a strong interest in how this can benefit me and my practice.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Our discussion today, it's going to cover three critical areas. First, the current state of generative AI adoption in APAC legal departments, and we'll have some of our panellists talk about how they're implementing it in their organisations. The second is proven methods for measuring technology return on investment that resonate with business leaders, so really important. And the third is strategies for building technology roadmaps that convert promising pilots into business impact. So we'll get started. Just a little bit of context. We did a study, the General Counsel Report of 2025, and we found that, and this canvassed general counsels from all across the world, different regions of the world, and it found that only 55% of Asia Pacific general counsels are comfortable using generative AI for discovery and similar matters as well. So this is actually quite lower than a lot of global counterparts, quite interestingly. So while adoption is slower, interest is clearly growing. We've just heard so much discussion about it already. We're just going to talk now about what are the roadblocks and how can legal leaders turn caution into calculated action. So I might start now just with Katrina and our panellists. Question we're going to start with is, where is your organisation currently in its Gen AI journey?
Thanks, Ryan. So I'm going to choose to answer with my clock hat on. We have regular sort of quarterly meetings, and actually at our February catch-up we asked our clock members, who probably, I think we had about 40 attendees who represent a lot of the larger Australian legal teams, where they're at with their generative AI journey, what sort of things they're doing. And I think my takeout was it was a bit of a mixed bag. I tend to think of the generative AI solutions that we're looking at into three buckets. The first one is around productivity, which is sort of enterprise-wide. Think your co-pilots, for example. A couple of people were on board with that. A lot of it was still trying to get it through their risk teams and onboarded, so that was a bit mixed. A number of other members were deep into the legal-only solution, so things like Thomson Reuters, the co-counsel, looking at legal specific, like Luminance is here as well. So there were a few that were doing that well, but not many that had sort of lent into it. And then the third bucket was around, I guess, what their enterprise was doing with generative AI. And scarily, some of the lawyers don't actually know what their enterprises are doing with generative AI. So that was a harder conversation to have at CLOC, but I know we've got sort of some great examples today. So really mixed would be my perspective.
Great, thank you. Ivana.
Yeah, so most recently at Boomi, they're a cloud company, so they're integration as a service. They're quite advanced in their journey. I remember even about 2 years ago when our CEO joined, he was talking about AI in every town hall. And at that time, I didn't really know what it was about. And so they started creating their internal, I guess, AI assistant. And I don't know, a lot of people have their own wiki pages, right, in their company. What they did was it just drawed on all these different wiki pages, and you just type a question in there, and then it would just come up with a response on internal resources. So, and it just kept improving. And earlier this year, our CEO had made it basically coming from a top-down approach that every department needed to incorporate utilising AI in their internal process, and made it a KPI for every single leader. So yeah, they took a very proactive approach, and hence, the legal team were heavy adopters.
Thank you. Marty.
I'm sort of lucky at Woolies. We've been dragged along in legal by the business. The business was a sort of an early adopter with it, probably maybe 3 years ago, like right at the very start, because we could see it being used overseas. So tools were being built, and we were all a bit startled about it, but because of privacy issues and the usual sort of ring fencing issues. The last 18 months, we've certainly accelerated how we use it within the legal team itself, looking for various ways that you can take sort of, starting with sort of low risk, low value work to get that off your desk and build tools around that, and also adopt things that are straight off the shelf like CoCounsel. We've also built our own within the Woolies ecosystem called Gemini, which you can use to create the first cut of an email or a letter that, particularly if it's a bit tricky to write, you can set the tone, tell the AI, oh look, I need to deliver this particular message to the person at this level and needs to hit these points in this area, and use that as a first cut. Or the other way that sort of got me into it was I used to get a lot of advices in that I'd have to sort of read, digest and then speak to inside 24 hours, which used to mean long hours and early starts and so on. But through the use of an AI summary, like a summary tool, your library of documents that you're using, because it's the advices you would have been reading anyway, and you just ask the AI tool to give you a quick summary pitched at your level. So, for example, I'm an experienced workers' comp lawyer, give me the action points, a summary and action points on these 15 new matters that I'm reviewing tomorrow. Bang, and you get a 2-page summary. So it's a productivity tool at its very basic.
Yeah, thanks. And I guess at Sydney Fish Market, we're a small, medium-sized business, so we're kind of at the other end of the spectrum. And it's unfortunate that my business is not really driving, AI at the forefront, because we're not a technology business. We're not, we're not one of those businesses where we have huge amount of repeat transactions. But nevertheless, I feel it should be more on the agenda than what it is. I'm not sure what's holding it back, but what I do know is that there's a huge amount of shadow use of AI. And I think that's just what I call people using it but not telling people that they're using it. And I mean, I'm probably in that category. I mean, I use it a lot. Do I tell people widely, I used AI, when I was helping research that? Probably not. Should I? I don't know. In-house counsel, where do we sit? I think we're really fortunate because we get to see all these different amazing businesses that we work for, and we get to see, what the business is doing to try and build efficiency, create better user experience, whatever it is, and we get to be at the forefront of that. Unfortunately, on the other hand, a lot of the law firms that I work with, I don't see them at the same stage. They are, I hear them talk about risk, regulation, all this kind of stuff that, reputational risk, it could be wrong, all this kind of stuff. None of that's really relevant in my day-to-day work. I mean, everything I do has a huge amount of risk attached, most of which could be wrong, and, usually has some, reputational issues that we don't care too much about. But it's just a real, different kind of paradigm between what I'm seeing law firms do and in-house counsel.
Right, thank you, Michael. And that's a great segue into the next question, which is, do you see law firms or external counsel moving faster in this space? How does that shape your approach? Pretty hot topic as well. We might start up this end, Marty, if you'd like to kick off there.
Pretty slow has been our experience, and I use a wide range of legal service providers, from little three-partner firms to huge global legal firms. I don't know if it's a reluctance or it just seems really slow, and I tend to be educating them and say, like, this is what you can do. It may be they're worried about their whole cost model and the way they price matters, because using AI cuts all the time out of lots of tasks, and if you're running on a model that's pay by the hour, then you hold yourself midships. So what I say to them, if there's a reluctance to use it, just give me a stage quote by stage, say in litigation, and then you can deploy your AI to create some efficiencies and then increase your margin. That's fine, but you need to be using it, because if you're not using it, BBW say, then Ashurst are going to be using it, and they can deliver a better product quicker for cheaper because of the AI.
Right to know.
Yeah, I mean, I would add a comment. I think it depends what service you're after. So for me, I actually think law firms are doing an incredible job if you think about delivering legal services with generative AI. Like, I will always lean on law firm partners to tell me about a certain product, how they're using it to help possibly the e-discovery. But what law firms are not in the business of, it's what our corporates do, right? Their business is providing legal services. Their business isn't investing superannuation or running a retail bank or a supermarket or selling a tech solution. So they are not as adept as your business colleagues are and can't see the market as widely. So I actually think leaning on them for the legal side of generative AI, yes, but for where your enterprise is going, and probably I think where most in-house lawyers are going to get drawn, no.
That's great. Michael, any closing comments on that question?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, just like you're saying, there's a different risk appetite, I think, out there. I think law firms, will catch up. There is, a lot of great work that I see being done out there, but I just see them talk about risk too much, and I think this is something that's moving so quickly that for competitive reasons, the law firms will have to catch up and use it.
Good to know. We've got the next question now, and we'll kick off with Ivana first. But it's about what low-risk use cases have delivered the most traction so far? Low-hanging fruit.
No, so Boomi, because they are a sales company, so we have a large sales ecosystem, and that means responding to lots of RFPs. Like hundreds, every month. Maybe not every month, but so. And the thing is, with RFPs, as some of you may know, companies like to put their NDA in there and then expect all the vendors to sign up to their NDAs, which is fine. But then that means the legal team then needs to review it, and it was creating a consistent bottleneck because every NDA had to be reviewed by the legal team, and we thought, look, how do we optimise this process? And because our company was, at that time, they were quite advanced on the AI, we had an enterprise GPT license, and every single lawyer had access to that. And that means that we could create custom GPTs, and it was all within the boundaries of our company on our servers and all that. And so we created we trained our GPT to to compare, to review customer NDAs when they came in against red lines, and then it would give us a go or a no-go based on our guardrails, and that took like 2 minutes versus hours. And so that actually resolved a very immediate business problem. That was so, yeah, and it was low risk. It wasn't like we were relying on AI to review some high risk material contract or NDAs. So that worked out really well.
Anything that helps RFPs as a technology sales professional sounds really great to me. So. And anything further from our panel members on that question at all?
In a sort of a low risk space, I found it really good. We used Google Hangouts, and there's some AI that hangs off that, where you can, if everyone's on screen, they're all logged in under their various names, with everyone's permission, you run a transcript of your meeting, and then turn the AI loose on the transcript to give you a summary and action points, and it's turned around in a couple of minutes, right? It's really good. It's really good at doing that sort of thing. It's particularly good at summarising things. Yeah. So rather than you having to take notes, you can just be free to sort of engage in conversation. You don't need a junior tagging along a spear carrier to take your notes. You've got the AI. You've got your robot there to do it, and then you've got an action plan right at the end, which you can run your eye over and go, that's pretty good. That's better than I might have got off some second-year grad. So that's a great way to use it.
I had a really quick one. Legal invoices coming in. Everyone's pain point if you're an in-house lawyer, especially if you've got a manual process within Cope, within Microsoft and Power Automate. They've built this like AI brain, I think it's called, or AI something or other. Anyway, you can train it with about 10 different invoices from maybe your most frequently used firms, and then put it into a Power Automate, and now it scrapes out, the 5 pieces of information that we need to process a workflow to get an invoice approved. And so instead of, an admin person having to get it, print it out, copy it, type it into something else, send it off, it's just like, done.
That's brilliant. That's such an important use case there. Topic 2, so we'll go value beyond hype, how general counsels can measure technology return on investment. So just a bit of context. So many general counsels are interested in AI, but proving its value is critical. It's not enough to experiment. Executives want to see results. General counsels who are moving ahead are connecting AI tools to tangible improvements in turnaround time, accuracy and cost savings. The question is, how do we quantify that value in a way that resonates with business leaders? I might kick off again also with you, Katrina. What is the value of legal in your organisation? This is a very, quite a broad question, I remember from the review. Oh, yes, of course. Might go to perhaps Marty, if you'd like to start off.
Sure. I think, if the legal function within the company's functioning properly, then it is, you're a trusted advisor, you are a problem solver within the context of whatever regulatory or legal framework might exist. So using these tools enables you to do that faster and more accurately. And I think that's, it doesn't just have to be, and sometimes it can be, but it doesn't have to be, we don't have to hire grads this year, or we don't have to hire, the extra person. It's much more than that. It's freeing you up to do the really sort of deep thinking and the really good strategic advice that leverages off your experience and what you've seen as an in-house lawyer, because you can take the low risk, high value stuff and push it through the AI and just get that done. And so you can do the sexy work, the good work.
Great. Anything else from panel members on that?
Yeah. I mean, value is my favourite topic, and it's my favourite topic because if I'm valued by the business and I know what they value, then it makes my job a hell of a lot easier, and it means that I stop doing all the things that are not valued, and I can focus on those things that matter. And I think it sounds simple, but I just see so many people that aren't super clear on what's valued and what isn't, and I see so much lack of alignment, and I see that in my own workplace where there's a lack of alignment existing between what work people are doing. Often it's because the risk profile's different. People are sort of doing a huge deep dive in something that's perhaps not that risky. And if we get alignment right, we understand value, it makes my job easier, it means I can do more with less, and all those fun things.
Well, go ahead.
I was going to just add on to the comments. I think it's also being that trusted advisor, but also having been included, the seat at the table, right? So you are a business leader. You're not just a compliance or a legal function. And then they'll share with you, they'll share projects or things with you up front. So get to play a part in making and shaping some of these decisions, and I think that's, super important.
Thanks, Ivana. Sorry, Ryan, just to press pause. We're at the halfway mark. I'd love to open up the floor to any questions, because I know tech, AI, very hot. Questions? Everyone knows everything about AI. One question in the back. Any others from this side? I form you into teams, so Team Alpha, Team Beta. Okay, excellent. All right, if you could introduce yourself as well, please. We'll come to you first.
Hello, so sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Mary Matty. I'm at Essilor Luxottica. I just had a quick question about AI and how you think it's going to change the landscape for graduates and junior lawyers, because the way I look at it is that I did have the privilege to proofread my seniors' work, to attend all those meetings, to do all that grunt work, which a lot of people don't like, but it's what actually trains you to be the best that you can be as a lawyer. And so now when I look at the young graduates coming through, I kind of feel bad for them, because they don't have that same opportunity to proof everything, to check every email before it goes out, which is an incredible learning opportunity. So this is a bit different, and it's about giving back. But how do you see the platform, how do you see that shaping for new grads coming through?
Question.
I'll just start off very briefly. It's going to make it incredibly difficult for people coming in the profession, because everybody's going to expect everything to be right all of the time. And I think just have a think about what that's going to look like, because mistakes won't be acceptable. And I think, that's not my way of working, but I think that's what I see us moving to a world where it's not acceptable to learn how to do something. It just has to be right from the get-go.
Any other takers before? Yeah.
I would just also say, I think we in this room need to be very careful that just because that was the way we came up doesn't mean that's the way it's going to be forever or the way that it should be. And I kind of use the scenario like of my children, the way that they're learning, the kind of essays, things that they do at school, like they have to give a self-review or self-reflection of every single assessment they do. I never did that at school. It works for them, and they're all coming out of high school with, great adult minds. So I think things are going to change, and I think we have to let go that the way that we were trained is not going to be the way that lawyers of the future are trained.
If I could just add just to that, because it's a topic close to my heart, and it's one of the big problems, I think, with an over-reliance in the AI tools. I know personally the way I learned the most was at the elbow of the partner, trailing them around, going to meetings, doing some work, getting back covered in red, and then sort of hearing where it's all gone wrong. I think that still needs to happen, and it's incumbent on us to still provide that to the next generation of lawyers coming through. It's just those lawyers won't be replaced by the AI, but they'll be replaced by junior lawyers who know how to deploy it and how to use it properly. So they can use it to do the first cut, but then they need to have proofed that first cut, and they need to be able to defend it. Because I know when we first started using the tools at Woolies, you were getting these emails, you were just seeing emails being sent out in this horrific American-style, super flowery language. And I'm like, that's not how you write. Stop. What are you doing? That's Gemini's. It's no different to using a template precedent. You can't slavishly follow it, but it's a bit of a thought starter. You create a framework for something that's complex, and that's the best way to use it.
Ivana, did you want to say something? Sorry.
No worries. I was going to say, back to your question, I don't think drafting is probably just one element, right, of learning to draft. But there are so many other areas, especially in-house, that, people can branch off to. And I think I think stakeholder management is also a super important one to survive, the in-house space. So I think there's still lots of opportunities to learn as a graduate, but maybe it's not specifically things that the AI does.
It's just so different. Like I was a clerk and I didn't have a computer for 4 weeks. So there you go.
One more question here.
Hi, I'm Paris. I'm General Counsel of Echelon.
And my question was around the kind of the practical arena of using these. Are there any particular pieces of AI software products that you've found personally useful in a business sense, not talking about like co-counsel and things I know, and Gemini you've counted on, so other ones that are useful. Like for us, I've had limited use out of things like, what's the Microsoft one called? Copilot, yeah. Like everyone's thinking it's great because it's ring-fenced to your system, so therefore it's secure and safe to use. But I find it's kind of like, I compare it to like using Bing instead of Google. You know, it's not the same kind of effectiveness. But then you've got ChatGPT, you've got limitations in terms of what can be put into it from a commercially sensitive perspective. So are there other tools that you personally use that you would tout as being worth it?
Ryan's hoping we all say relativity.
I have used Air at Relativity, and I do find it useful. I think it's horses for courses with these tools. ChatGPT is clearly, pretty dangerous, and it's not something that we're even allowed to use. I've used one called Claude that's very good, but I think that might be Quantium have put that out. You just need to understand where they're drawing their knowledge from. I think it's one of the dangers, and heaven forbid you get an example of a hallucination or something like that. But yeah, for me, just start using them. Use them on sort of low risk stuff, particularly around summarising and that, and make your day, just a bit smoother, and sort of build from there.
I think some tools have an enterprise version. So that means that they've got additional securities and you can secure it within the four walls of your, behind your firewall, or have a local server in Australia where it doesn't leave and not to train. So you just got to explore that with your, the IT department and see where they sit with that.
And there are lots of, depending on the industry you're in, tech solutions that will have AI, not necessarily generative AI, that your business colleagues might be using or in. So when I was an investment fund at IFM, we used Entra, which was a side letter review. I know through law firms as well for due diligences, often use like Luminance, Kira, Relativity. So there's lots of ways that these sort of tools can be used that aren't what you think of like the Copilot ChatGPT box. That's just a very small part of what we're talking about.
Thank you. We talked about value, and I might just go into success metrics and KPIs. What are we using or planning to use to measure value from Gen AI or other legal tech? And I'll invite any of my co-panelists to sort of jump in here.
I can start. So my first reflection is that when it's time to measure or talk about a metric or a value of generative AI, I don't think it's any different from any other solution that the legal team is looking at deploying, and so therefore it's kind of the same formula that I would roll out as a legal ops person to say, right, let's talk about how we're going to measure our return on our investment. So tell me, lawyer, how many times are you doing X in a week or in a month or in a year, and kind of get an estimate, and how long does it take you? All right, let's roll it through this solution and see how long it's taking us. Right, so there's a time saving. Maybe we can put a blended rate. There's a cost saving. Maybe we can also think about the access that the business now had to it because they can do it 24/7. So that's a metric in terms of their turnaround time. So you can start to really tease out a lot of the metrics in the very same way that you would have used it for like an online form that they could go to. I think what's hard, and I think that can be done in multiple types of documents, workflows, automation, generative AI solutions. What's harder, and what I don't have an answer for, is the value that I think Michael and Marty and Ivana talked about already, the value of the strategic trusted partner and getting at the board. And so I think that's incredibly hard to value, and so maybe the value is actually being able to do that and not doing the stuff that you've now deployed the technology solution for. Maybe that's my cop-out answer for that aspect.
Well, it's trying to, you're trying to prove a negative. You're trying to say, put a value on something that we avoided, because I was close enough to the business and I'd freed myself up by using AI tools that I can sort of get to the heart of the problem. I think you mentioned it before. One of the joys of working in-house is you get a seat at the table and you're part of, the developing the strategy, and you sort of turn to the people ask, can we do it? Sometimes should we do it? And that's where you can, you show your value. You can't. It's hard to put a dollar figure on that if you're just talking to the CFO, but you say, look, it's bigger than this. We're nudging you away from the big pit, the pitfalls and the things you might trip over with the regulator or with anyone, with a third party, because we understand the business and we can get, we can use the AI tools to get a handle on a large volume of material and do that early case analysis and early strategising, because you can get to the root of a problem rather than having a deluge of 20,000 emails where, sure, you could push that, you could always push that into a big e-discovery database like Relativity, but now with the AI tools you can then turn that loose over the top of it and give you some summaries. So what was Joe Blow's role in this particular transaction? And what was his relationship to such and such? Which is great for, say, if you're looking for fraud, something like that.
Good to know. I might go on to topic 3, which is roadmaps and readiness, moving from pilot to performance. So most APAC legal departments report low maturity in legal tech readiness, often rating themselves around a 2 on a 5-point scale. I think that's a bit harsh personally, but moving from isolated experiments to sustainable implementation requires a clear roadmap, defined priorities and measurable outcomes. Let's discuss how to turn plans into progress. So I think we might go up to the end there with Michael and Marty. What does your legal tech roadmap look like for the next 12 to 18 months? And bring it back here later.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I love tech. I can't get enough of it. I think though my use cases and my roadmap within my current role are not as advanced as what I would like. But what we are looking at are document repositories, contract management, matter management, e-billing, e-signature. We've got some of those, but not all of them. I think that's not going to be news to anyone, and we're sort of different stages of evolution along, with each of those. We're more advanced with document repository. We're working with something in SharePoint. We're looking to leverage Microsoft 365 as much as we can. But what we're using, what I'm not kind of getting enough of is to then overlay the AI to create scale within those platforms. I think that's a potential benefit that in the medium term I'd like to see. And I think we've got to get the sort of tools off the ground first, and then we can start leveraging the benefits within the business.
So we were lucky enough to sort of start this journey a while ago. So about 12 months ago, sat down with all the heads of the different sort of types of legal function within Woolies, and it's a big legal team. It's about 130 lawyers. So say the property legal function and myself, I do all the litigation, so on, the people, off it goes. We sat down with our, the techiest guy that we had, Ben, and he was across a lot of what the AI was offering and could see the potential. And we just discussed, well, where are your pain points in your day-to-day, and where do you think you're spending too much time on a particular piece of work that when you think about it's low risk? If there's not a huge benefit, what would you rather be doing? And then with each stream of work, we came up with some, a tool, and then we've got people who can go away and build it, or you can get the AI to write the code to build it as well, which is a bit frightening. But for example, in the property space, we've built a tool that can negotiate our leases with our landlords. There's a playbook that we all sort of fall back on anyway, or people just know it because they've done it for so long, about the positions that the group will take, depending on the size, how much you want the particular site, so on. And now you can negotiate that with the AI tool. Ultimately, if you've got Stockland on the other side, they'll have their AI tool on the other side, and the AI they just talk to each other like some sort of horrible Skynet scenario, and then you get a lease, in a day rather than 4 or 5 weeks. Now that, you still want to run your eye over it if it's worth above a certain level, but if it's not, depending on the size of your the business, it might not be worthwhile deploying a lawyer to look at that, and you can just run with it. So we've got that. We've got tools that say look at the regulatory space around liquor licensing. Back when we had a liquor business, and they would just do a scrape of all the newsletters and government circulars and that sort of thing, like from trusted sources, and give you a monthly summary of changes. Now we used to rely on that. The various firms would fire them off, and it was always first to market. Would get the phone call when there was a matter, but now you just put them in the pot with the AI, stirs it up and gives you a summary, and you just regulate that. So those are the sort of things we've been doing.
That's great to know. Thank you, Marty. I might bring it back to Ivana and Katrina now. How do you choose which use cases to pursue? Cost, speed, risk reduction, or a combination?
A combination of all. So it wasn't just, back to the NDA process, it wasn't just the time, but it was the perception of being able to resolve a business problem quickly. And so you are giving the impression to the business that, yes, we're trying to help you, we're trying to stop all the bottlenecks, and help, increase revenue, because, legal is always often seen as a cost center. So you always try to, how do we counteract that, even as a perception? We focused on processes where there was immediate impact and low risk NDAs. Yeah.
And for me, it's three steps from easiest to hardest. The first one is work out where you have a need or a requirement or a pain point. Second one, work out where you get budget from or a way to get it. You get a bit creative, building a bit of a coalition of the willing. Often legal might have the same needs as tax or as finance, so you can sort of amalgamate. And then the third one is around building that appetite within your team or your enterprise to use that new solution, and that requires sort of that curious growth mindset around technology, and that's the hardest one.
Thank you. What strategies are you using to build internal buy-in and prepare your team for more AI adoption? I think one for potentially Marty or Katrina.
It's pushing on a swing door at Woolies. They expect you to use the AI. It's more, the question's asked, why didn't you use the AI on a particular thing? We sort of crossed that bridge already because we've got the runs on the board. We can deliver things faster and cheaper because we've got bespoke tools.
And I think it's about keeping it simple, so avoiding the lawyer's, desire to cover every scenario under the sun. It's let's just get something that works for 80% and the rest of it, come to me. And also to support users end to end, so be there with the guide at the start, training, help on call, keep looping back, improving it.
Final question for Ivana and Michael, I think, just to round it out. What role do vendors and partners have in success with some of these technologies? It'd be great to get your thoughts as we close it out.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. I think I rely hugely on the vendors. I think the Australian legal tech community is wonderful. If you don't already get engaged with a lot of the vendors, they're willing to spend a lot of time walking through products, doing demos and all that kind of stuff. I just eat that stuff up, and it's really increased my knowledge and awareness in this space.
Thank you. That's actually our last question. We've got about a minute left, so I might open the floor up for just further Q&A if we're interested.
Any questions? 1 hand, 2 hands. All right. Please introduce.
Thanks for that. That was really insightful. I'm Hannah. I'm at Hester, one of the super funds. We've adopted AI, and I've been asked this question, and I guess looking at the two subject matters on the screen about measuring value around AI and stress and mental health in the law. What are your thoughts on, with AI making us more productive, it's saving time on contract review, are we just taking on more work by creating more space, or do you see some of that pressure being taken off the teams and giving a bit more space for other activities?
We've got 10 seconds left. I've got no idea how to answer that question.
Okay.
Great question.
I mean, again, like I said before, I mean, I actually think we're in a wonderful space at the moment where we all think AI is going to make our life a hell of a lot easier. Actually, unfortunately, I don't see that in the future always being the case, because I think I see this world of perfection where actually, you know, our job becomes so difficult because we've got to produce so much work, and I think that's what you're getting to.
Yep.
What do we have to just, our productivity needs to increase so much that our jobs in fact get so much harder. That's the fear I have.
Okay, just to finish on a positive note, I think the AI tools will allow us to do the better, more interesting work. We'll all be fighting against this need for perfection, because a lot of the time, 90% is fine. You know, 90% right's good enough. It really depends on what the risk is. So, you know, we'll all guard against this rising tide of unreasonable expectation of perfection and say, look, here it is. You wanted it turned around quickly. Here it is. We can spend more time on it. How right do you need it to be? It's at 95%.
And I would just cheekily add, like, productivity is great, but that is rarely a value of a corporate or a legal function. So, you know, it's a race to the bottom. So it's actually about, you know, going back to the value, going back to how do you collaborate as a team, how do you build the strategic partnerships with the business, I think. And it's the generative AI solutions or whatever it is should be helping you lean into that.
Awesome. One more question here, and then we'll close it out.
Hi, I'm Janeri. I'm from Optus. I'm a huge AI enthusiast, and I'm trying to encourage my team members to get on board with the products that we have available, and coming up against a bit of friction, a bit of uncertainty. And do you have tips for teams that are trying out these tools to encourage experimentation, curiosity, and things like that?
You put it on your team meeting agenda every week. Everyone has to share one thing that they've done or one thing that's failed even.
I was going to say, can they try something that they like from their personal life? Like for example, I use the custom GPT, but I created this like tutoring tool for my daughter. And I made it like Sanrio, this Sanrio tutoring, because she did not like maths. And I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to create this Sanrio themed word problem, and she can type and ask questions, and it will generate, you know, Sanrio themed maths questions. And yeah, I don't know whether that maybe if you can incorporate somewhat their personal life into it, and then they're maybe more open to it from a work front.
Excellent. All right, sorry, we've run out of time, but you have lots of questions, I'm sure, about tech and AI, so do find the Relativity team or any of our panelists during drinks, which is very, very soon, but not yet. But big round of applause, please, for Ryan, Mike, Marty, Katrina, Ivana. Thank you so much. All right, one more session, and then you can get some drinks right here at the Ninja Bar. All right, so if you're in the room, tomorrow, yeah. I can take it. All right, so if you're in the room here, before we play the video, I just want to let you know, if you're in the room here, it's about the future of in-house legal support, contractors, secondments, and more. So if you're interested in a bit of flexible working, this is the one to be at. And then downstairs in the secret room, we've got a very, very cool workshop on how to handle a tough situation. I'm sure we've all faced tough situations, but you'll get some great tips. You'll hear some great stories downstairs. So do head on down to the secret room, and that is how to handle a tough situation. If you are heading down, please remember to come back up, because the after party is right here on this level. All right, let's give it a minute. Make your decision whether you want to stay here and hear about the in-house legal support and what else is out there in the future, or head down for how to handle a tough situation. You have 1 minute. right, you have 30 seconds to decide if you want to stay or if you want to go. But when I say go, I don't mean leave the whole summit. I mean go downstairs to the secret room. Because if you leave the summit, I'll get really hurt and I will never speak to you again. All right, if I can have your attention, please. This session is brought to us by our friends at Pierpoint by A&O Shearman. Let's play the video. Excellent. Thank you to our friends at Pierpoint who have supported us not only in Sydney but also in Dubai and London and hopefully more other parts of the world going forward. But thank you so much. All right, so this is the future of in-house legal support, contractors, secondments, and more. Our moderator is Rachel Carter, head of APAC and Middle East at Pierpoint. Panelists are Adrian Gubay, senior legal counsel at People First Bank. Paris Bree, General Counsel for Echelon, Rebecca Edwards, GC for Future Now Ventures, and Wendy Barker, GC for Jonas Software. Big round of applause, please. All right, so you've made it to the end of day one. How do you feel? Somebody's eating chips over there. Fantastic, get some salt in there. There's also a Pepsi fridge if you haven't seen it, so do grab some waters or some Pepsi Maxes. They're amazing. And also, like I said, we've got drinks right after this, so I think you're going to need a few drinks after the long day that we've just had. I need a drink, so do join me out there. In fact, you know, what's really funny is that whenever we do a summit or a Ninja Night or anything like that, anywhere in the world, it's every panel mentions AI. The word AI comes up. Regardless of what the topic is, AI always comes up. So I think what we're going to do next year for the Sydney Summit is hand all of you tequila shots, and every time the word AI comes up, we'll play a drinking game. You have to drink, all right? I don't think you'll make it past the first session at 9 a.m., but it'll still be fun. All right, without further ado, 20 minutes, we'll ask questions, and 40 minutes, that's the end, and then drinks. Rachel, over to you.
Thanks, Rowan. And not to disappoint, we will be talking a little bit about AI in our session as well today.
Got the tequila shots ready?
And so for those of you who were in the room for the most recent panel session here, we heard about how to measure and demonstrate the value of new tech and AI. And actually that's a really great segue into this panel discussion where we're going to be considering what in-house legal functions might look like in the future. And actually in my role with Pierpoint, I feel like I've got quite a unique window into how general counsel are reshaping their legal functions now. But what I found most fascinating in preparing for this discussion and talking to the panelists here were their views on the future and what legal functions will look like in 5 to 7 years' time. So that's what we'll be focusing today's discussion around. And of course, a neat place to start is with AI, technology that's already impacting the size and shape of legal functions. And Wendy, you're the General Counsel of Jonas Software. It's a highly acquisitive company comprised of about 35 different software brands. Your team is currently made up of a junior lawyer and a paralegal, a structure which is arguably ripe for disruption. So really keen to understand how you see your team looking in the next 5 to 7 years.
Sure, thank you. So the way we are looking at it is, I don't know if you've heard the concept of AI first. So I've instructed my team that every bit of, every instruction they get or any job they get to do, they have to think of how they could use Copilot, as good as it is or isn't, first before they start doing it. And in my kind of annual strategy and my resourcing strategy, I'm starting to think in 5 years how many people I will have in my team and how many agents or other services or side software we'll have. And that's the way it's moving. I mean, I've got the 2.5 day a week paralegal, and I think within 12 months, I probably won't need her anymore, but I will need someone that is a technologist, because I need someone that can create the agents, that can improve the workflows. It's kind of the legal ops, but it might be a little bit more technical. Someone that can use Power BI or Power Automate and create the workflows for me, because that's where the efficiency comes from. And that's where I think we're going, is really being kind of the conductor of all of these different ways of operating. Yeah.
Brilliant. And Paris, you're the General Counsel of Echelon, which is an energy exploration and production company. Echelon has a large asset base. It operates in a high-risk industry, and you've got a team of lawyers spread across Wellington and New York. How do you see the future looking for your team in that kind of environment?
Kia ora, and thank you. Look, I think that it's a little bit crystal ball gazing, isn't it? But I think that there are probably 3 key things that are going to help shape that for me in the next 5 to 7 years. One of them is going to be the fact that we're in growth mode. So Echelon, even though it's quite an old company, we've had a few different iterations, a bit like the Phoenix rising again, and so we have a bit of a new name, a new strategy. We're in growth mode, and so one of the things that's going to dictate how my team looks is going to be how we grow. Then it's going to be how we resource that growth. Then it's going to be what tools we're using. So I don't think that AI is going to replace people per se, but what I think it's going to do is act like a bit of a disruptor in terms of the rate of growth that we have. So I think that what I can foresee is that AI enables us, it kind of unleashes the talents that we have, right? It augments us. And so it means that we will do more with less for longer. So that that common tension while you're growing is, when do you resource up? When's the right time to add your resources? So I can see that the time by which we're adding headcount will be delayed because we can do more with AI and other kind of tools. And so I think that's kind of one space. But then I also think that it'll be, how we work, and how we resource that. We have to be a little bit more creative. The old kind of model is not going to work for us, because we're needing to be across, multi-jurisdictional, multiple time zones, multidisciplined as well. So I don't want to cut short my talent pool from what I'm looking for resourcing. So I'm needing to expand it to things like part-time workers, job share stuff, people who want to work remotely, people who want to work in hybrid, people who only want to work in the office. I've got to make sure I've got an office for them, got to make sure that someone who can work remotely but actually have all those organic, natural moments where you have connectivity to kind of make sure the team's working cohesively. All those kind of things I'm going to have to think about. And then tools, how do I actually create an environment by which people are curious enough to learn, they feel safe enough that they belong, that they can actually be curious, they can experiment, they can play. And then that way figure out how best they work. within the team and what they contribute to. So I think there's a few things going on there, but I'm hoping that that ultimately means, because the growth strategy is in place, that we're, you know, I've got a number of lawyers with me. Doesn't really bother me where they are. In New Zealand, in Australia, in New York, fantastic, but they would be reporting to someone else if they're in New York. But it would be nice for me to have the kind of cohesion, but be, despite the disparity of where, you know, the geolocations. So, long answer, but there you go.
Got it. No, that was great. Adrian, as a senior legal consultant for People First Bank, you're helping them through their merger with Heritage Bank currently and using that as a bit of an opportunity to champion the use of AI tools, several AI tools for the benefit of both the legal function and the COSEC function. What challenges have you faced in doing that, and what kind of analysis have you done to navigate those?
I think one of the most interesting things for me has been getting the lawyers in the team on board and accepting the risk that introducing an AI tool introduces. You know, lawyers, and I'm not a banking and finance lawyer despite where I work, but banking and finance lawyers are even more risk averse than any other group I've worked with. And I think one of the most interesting things for me has been, I was all ready to go in gang-ho. I knew what I felt would benefit the business the best. I could see how I could build it into our existing tech stack. I could see how I could add it into our matter management system. What I didn't originally account for was the pushback I was going to get. And sort of building on what the last session was talking about, how did I get people over that? Space llama knock-knock jokes. So each fortnight we have a 1-hour team meeting, and each fortnight for the last little bit I've been introducing a new publicly available AI tool. It's not one of the tools we're about to implement. It's not doing what we will need it to do, but it is just getting everybody familiar and used to using AI. So we started with my 11-year-old's favourite topic at the moment, which is space llama knock-knock jokes. And I challenged the entire team to go away and come up with a good knock-knock joke or a really bad dad joke. And they all had a week, and I provided them with details of what they needed to do to lock down ChatGPT. I produced, you know, step-by-step guides to prompting, all using ChatGPT, by the way. And I've introduced it that way, because when you go to a team and say, I'm going to find a tool that can do a big chunk of your current job, you get a lot of pushback, because the first fear is that this tool is going to take my job. And what I've had to show through this incremental use of non-legal AI tools has been, these tools are great, but they're not going to take your job, because you are still the human with the brain who can actually test whether or not that information that it is producing is a pure hallucination, 50% true, or you know, as good as it's going to get for what it knows. And so that's been a really interesting journey to take the team on. We're actually looking at COSEC, legal and marketing AI tools all at the same time. And what is out there is fantastic. None of it is perfect. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for me on this journey has been, there is no one tool out there right now that will save all our legal woes, will fix all our efficiencies, but go out there, pick up something that's good enough for now, revisit it in 3 years' time.
I just might say, be careful with the length of contract of your service providers then, because you don't want to lock yourself into a 3-year contract and 18 months down the track the tool is overtaken or not as what you wanted. We're locked in one at the moment, and it's a big learning.
Yeah, it's definitely on my agenda, but it's also in there for what you've got to talk to your tech team too, what's their strategy? How often are they willing to, work with you to put in place some new tool onto the tech stack? We're going through a massive tech stack reorganisation, so the least work I can give the tech team, the happier they are.
Thanks, Wendy. And you touched on sort of reaction and resistance from the team. And I suppose when we talk about AI and its impact on team size and structure, many of us think about its impact on full-time, permanent team members. But of course, over the last 5 to 7 years in particular, we've seen such a strong rise in the use of consultant or fractional resources within in-house legal functions in Australia, but globally as well. At Pierpoint, for example, we've seen usage in Australia increase by about 700% in the last 7 years. And going just back to you, Adrian, you've been working as a senior legal consultant for most of the last 12 years. In your view, why has this model gained so much traction, and what do you see the benefits being for general counsel in particular?
From a general counsel perspective, I think one of the best things is the ability to flex up and down your resourcing as your workload changes. So I came in to help People Choice with the merger. And it was initially a 3-month contract. 2 and a bit years later, I'm still there. But we have, in my part of the legal team, we have full-time equivalents of 4.2 spread across 5 people. And that is what I'm seeing more and more, when I'm talking to potential customers. And it's that ability to bring in someone who's right for that particular deal, that particular issue that you've got, who's a short-term expert who can come in, hit the ground running, and then's quite happy to leave. I found that that's a really great way for me personally to find new, interesting places to work. But also, when I was in a GC role, it was great for me to resource my team that way. Because as things change, you can change your team.
Thank you. And you'd actually mentioned earlier today that the legal team at People First have no staff members working full-time currently. Everyone's on a different FTE working pattern, which goes to a lot of the topics we've discussed today around balance.
So we've just got one person in my part of the team who's just come on board full-time, but until recently we were all part-timers on my side of the team.
Rebecca, similarly, you provide an outsourced GC service to a range of your clients, and you also do some work for D2, the legal data consulting firm, and separately consult on some AI-related projects. What do you see the role of legal consultants playing in in-house teams in 7 years?
It's a really good question, and actually one that I've given a lot of thought to because of the very hybrid nature of the work that I do. I found myself offering this outsourced GC service because I needed to find a way to work in law that fit in with my personal life at the time, about 5 years ago. But what I've seen is actually a major shift in the way legal teams are operating. So I started off offering the service to startups, scale-ups, organisations that had a need for a legal resource that didn't have, the quantity of legal work to justify hiring a full-time legal resource, but needed high-level GC-level expert advice. But what I've seen, over the last few years, and what I see continuing to happen over the next few years, is a real shift in the way that legal teams are operating. I think gone are the days where organisations are trying to build a really large legal team and trying to cover every service, every offering, every niche specialisation within the law. And legal teams, I think, are becoming smaller and relying more and more on external consultants. whether that be, contractors, secondees, etc. But what I see, I guess, happening over the next 7 years is a growing need for external consultants, and those consultants playing a few key roles. So specialist, expert, on-demand advice, particularly as legal teams can't really have the in-house depth that's needed as legal issues become more and more complex. Tech-enabled consultants will increasingly play a larger role, as we've discussed, and we have heard about AI and the growth of AI and technology, but I really see that there'll be a growing need for consultants that both understand the legal substance but are also very tech fluent and can help in-house teams actually navigate the use of AI and tech tools and integrate those tools within a legal team. I see consultants also playing a role as a strategic partner. For myself and the organisations that I offer this outsourced in-house GC service to, I'd be very surprised if many of the business people in those organisations actually even know that I'm an external consultant. And so it is more of a strategic high-level role that consultants are playing in, I think, a very cost-efficient, scalable way, as Adrienne mentioned. So the ability to scale up and scale down and sort of calibrate the legal support to the growth of the business, particularly for scaling companies. So I think, the lines will blur between in-house teams, external consultants, and I think that will be accelerated by the use of AI. But yeah, I think it's, as mentioned in the previous panel, I think it's a really interesting time for us and opportunities that we should grab and run with and re-architect the way that we actually design our legal teams and do our work and take advantage of all that's on offer.
Thanks, Rebecca. So we're hearing that the skills required by in-house legal teams will, of course, look very different in the future. And I saw a Deloitte study that was published late last year, which mentioned that only 27% of chief legal officers feel that they have the right skill mix in their teams now. And it kind of raised for me the question, which you've touched on, Rebecca, around whether in-house legal functions will become truly multidisciplinary in the future, and whether the legal function as we know it now, as a sort of a standalone function, will no longer exist. Paris, I thought you might have a view on this because you'd shared with me earlier that you had a data scientist join Echelon as a contractor, and actually some of the learnings and experiences from that were surprising for you. So keen for your view on this topic, and of course we've already seen the rise of legal operations and legal technologist roles within legal functions, but keen to understand what you would see beyond that.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think it's only just going to get more and more that way. And as resources are constrained, you have to do more with less, as we've talked about as a key theme of today. But I think it's also about the capabilities and interest taking kind of root as well. So at Echelon, we've got a lean team, and we do have to wear multiple hats. I've got a number of them. I'm General Counsel, I'm Company Secretary, I head up Sustainability, HSE, risk, reporting, corporate reporting, etc. So, within my team, there's a number of disciplines that have to be met, and that means that the legal function, those who can will do, and we can actually meet the needs of the business in diverse ways. So we do bring in consultants when we need to. We are a project-based type of company, so we will bring in resources for projects, and then they can drop away, etc. The experience that you were talking about before, when we brought in a data scientist, actually fulfilled some of the finance team's gaps that they had at the time. He just had an absolute spark of interest about AI, but also about excel. And so what he did was he participated in an initiative we started called Cross-Pollination Series, where every second Tuesday we have someone in one of the functions of the wider team have a lunch and learn session where they have a 15-minute presentation, we do an AI-generated kind of quiz to try and get engagement, etc. And then like 15 minutes of conversation and discussion about what that is. And that way we learn about the other functions of the team, we're getting different kind of diverse skills, greater understanding of the business, etc. So to answer your question square on, I actually think, yes, we're going to see that more multidiscipline, functional, fractional type of approach being applied. My team's already doing it. I see a need for things like, particularly with risk and legal being paired, risk and commercial being paired, risk and like gas trading for Echelon, for example, being paired. And I think that's done really successfully. And I think it has been for a while, and I think it's only going to keep going that way.
It's really interesting because, even at Pierpoint, we're seeing increasing examples of resource sharing across complementary functions like legal and secretariat, and even, as you say, legal and commercial teams. Wendy, you've got a really interesting future-focused view. Keen to get your perspective on this topic and whether you think the standalone legal function as we see it today will no longer exist in future, or those lines will become increasingly blurred.
Well, I think at the end of the day, we do provide legal services, and we're highly skilled at providing the legal services, so we can't kind of get away from that too far, because, a contract review, as much as AI can do it, is still a pain in the neck, and no one else wants to do it. So I think, putting that aside, COSEC has always kind of been a legal function. Some places keep it in finance. So I think we always have had a certain degree of risk and COSEC and sometimes sustainability within the legal role. I don't know if there'll be so much of a blurring because, we're still commercial advisors and lawyers being in-house, and I find the more senior you get, the more commerciality you need to use, and therefore you become more strategic. And that's where you shift out of that everyday legal advice to you could do that, but it's going to cost the company too much money, so have a think about doing this. And so that's where it shifts for me, and that's where I'm trying to push my junior lawyer, because it's all we could get, into thinking always commercially before he goes and tells someone to go and trademark a brand new business because it doesn't have any goodwill behind it, things like that, and trying to really round out that legal advice that we're giving to make it more commercial. I think that's where we could blur the lines more.
Got it. Rebecca, from the work you do with D2 in particular, do you have a view on what the skill kind of role mix might look like within a legal function of the future? I'm personally interested in particular in what might be insourced and outsourced, for example, in future versus what we see in the market today.
No, that's interesting question, because I've more recently embarked on another venture because I've seen a gap in the market. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think that the days of in-house legal teams trying to do everything are numbered. And I think the legal function, or the work of a legal function, can really be split into a few, broad buckets. One being the core strategic work that historically the more senior lawyers have done within a team. Two is more the operational type, day-to-day BAU operational routine-driven work, and that's the area that I see being increasingly not being replaced by, but being done by AI tools, legal op teams, and I still see a role for the in-house legal function, because I think the in-house legal function needs to oversee, basically develop those internal legal process functions so that those other, AI tools or legal op teams can actually do that more routine, low-value work. And three is the highly specialised legal work, which I see more, I guess more, or the team better utilise external resources for that type of work. But the core strategy, I think, will always stay within a legal function. I think it makes sense to stay within an in-house legal team. I think that makes the work of the in-house lawyers more interesting. You know, and things not just, you know, product design, but commercial strategy, you know, high stakes negotiations, things that really require deep business knowledge where really context is everything. And I think that it's the process, routine work and the highly specialised work that I think may move outside of the legal team to more outsourced or legal ops or tools. And having worked in very large organisations as well as very small organisations, I think the investment banks, so Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, where I've worked previously, they do the legal ops really well. But obviously small organisations that have a smaller but growing legal team haven't really adopted that notion of a legal ops team. And so the in-house team is doing more of the routine process work where frankly legal teams shouldn't have to do that work. The focus should be really on the high level strategic, value driven, more commercial work.
It's hard though, because I mean, on one hand, you're holding the business back at getting all the constant work that you're doing. When I was at Arup, we could not stop the flow of contract reviews to be able to do the strategic work. And the implementation of a tool takes so much time and so much foresight into how it will work, how it fits with the business and the change strategy. So when you've got a small team or even a bigger team, it's hard to find that time to even, you know, be able to implement something to get it off your plate. It's kind of like the chicken and the egg thing, but.
And that's actually where I see the intersection between sort of our topic, which is the use of contractors and secondees, and, you know, they can come in and help with that strategizing and even looking at what in this team, what in this organisation is ripe for the use of automation, for the use of AI. And that's one of the places where I see sort of a real shift in what kind of external support are we bringing into our teams versus what is my team here today delivering, because I want a team that is delivering genuine value driven by trust and relationships within a business. I want them delivering the really smart commercial advice. Absolutely going out for that specialist legal advice. You know, that's why we work with external firms. But then, you know, that project-based stuff is where I see that, you know, these contractors, secondees coming in and looking at how they can make that value for the lawyers in the team greater, because we all want job satisfaction. No one wants to be sitting there all day doing, you know, low-value contract reviews, and as a general counsel, you don't want them sitting there doing that either, because they're likely highly paid individuals. You know, you want to get value from your team, and your team wants to deliver value. So how do we make sure that our in-house permanent employees are delivering that value they want to?
I think I need to hire you to come and convince my boss that we need it.
Thank you. I'm just mindful that we have 10 minutes left before the beverages start. Any questions? One or two questions maybe we can take. I can see a hand there. Any other hands? Going once, going twice. Two hands. Too many hands. All right, we'll go over to you first, and then we'll come to you.
Hello. Contractors, secondments, fractional. What else are we missing? What haven't we talked about today that's coming?
Agents, AI agents, and having them built so you can replace the legal tech. I'm using a couple of very cheap plugins at the moment, and I'm hoping within 12 months I can get rid of those plugins to clear up budget for something else and to build my own agents once I learn how to do that. Yeah, that will change how we work big time. And the research within, you know, AI is just phenomenal.
And I think some low-code kind of stuff as well, automation, workflows, that kind of stuff that can go through, get the approvals processes managed, get the repetitive things managed as well, input of, you know, if there's a repetitive like CAs or consultancy agreements or whatever your personal business needs, if there's a high degree of repetition and, insert here type of agreements, then agents can do that kind of thing, and it can be automated through, like low-code workflows.
Wizards, that's the big one. Spend a small amount of money to get someone to build an automated, you can do it in DocuSign, quite frankly. You can have a template document that the business just answers a series of questions and it creates a document. You can put the whole thing through a workflow, obviously depending on what your tech stack is. But yeah, the use of wizards, particularly around those standard documents, those NDAs, your consultancy agreements, sponsorship agreements in my business, they're low value, they're repetitive, but we might do 10 a week. And there's no real value added by the legal team other than checking them. So let's take it off our plate and make them automated as much as you can.
Yeah, and Microsoft has approvals as well as through it, so it kind of has that almost semi-automated automation that you just need to fill in some gaps.
Yep. And also, I'm working with a client at the moment that, we're automating the document generation, but also they've got, a 300-page playbook for their legal team, setting out what they can and can't agree to in a negotiation. So very complex financial institution documentation. And we are building that playbook into an AI tool so that that whole process is automated, even down to what internal approvals they need. So that's all coming.
We've actually using AI to review requests to use AI in our business.
This sounds really boring in comparison to agents and wizards, but one of the things that we've been seeing some of the larger organisations we do is start to look at almost building shadow legal teams for peak busyness periods. So been speaking, for example, to a large financial institution recently who have a large volume of transactional work at known periods throughout the year, twice a year, and they know that during those 2 periods they effectively need to double the size of their legal team to work through the volume. So we've been talking about how we can provide a pool of resources that's known to them, trusted by them, that they can tap into very quickly for finite periods.
All right. Jess, I'll come to you, but David's right next to me, so this is more convenient. David, if you could go ahead.
Thanks. In a previous life, I was very close to this whole sector, and one thing I'd noticed was there were quite a few people at the senior end of the spectrum providing contract support particularly, but there was huge demand at the junior end of the spectrum. Has that changed at all, and where do you see it tracking to more junior or still more senior and beyond?
I think it depends on the contract. If that's the question, is about who can review the type of contract?
No, it was availability of the junior level, where there was a lot of demand for junior and more cost-effective resources, but just about all of the resources, at least in my experience, were at the sort of 15-year plus PQE.
I don't know what the market's like.
I can tackle that. I think what we've also experienced is that you get that kind of brain drain, especially from, I'm from New Zealand, so in Wellington there, you've got a whole lot of people who are leaving the country, particularly after they've just gotten qualified. So, they come out of university, they go into one of the top firms, they get, really great training for 1 or 2 years, and then maybe 3rd year they're off to London. Or they come over here. And so you've got that real gap. And COVID kind of hijacked that a touch and made it so that the choices weren't as available. So then that changed the game up a bit there. But what I would actually see, what I'm seeing right now is that we've actually got a bit of a problem in terms of, everything's been tipped on its head a bit after COVID, I think. We've got a bit of a problem with actually having a degree of seniority available. And if I had a choice between getting a junior resource or an intermediate resource or a senior resource, I mean, it depends on what I've got in my workflows coming up, but I'm probably going to go for an intermediate who's curious, who can then actually have some ambition to get up to the senior. But if it's too senior, then I've got a ceiling for them and it's not going to be as interesting, so I'm kind of shortening my timeline. If I'm going for a junior resource, I'd actually be really interested in how diverse their thinking is, how curious they are. One of the things Wendy said earlier was about getting the juniors kind of get up on all the tech, like being tech savvy, but understanding it, being able to use it, being able to create the AIs, being able to create the agents and the processes, the workflows, that's what I mean by being diverse and being curious. It's about actually having the tools and being with it so that their value and impact is, magnified. It's not just legal skills they're bringing to the case, because as we all know, when you've got a fresh green kind of junior, there's not a lot of value that you get out of the first couple of years, and that's why they were so useful when they came out of the firms who did all the training to then take it on, or when they're coming back from London. For us it was, coming back from London after they've had 3 years in one of the firms in New Zealand or Australia, and then they've had another 3 to 4 years in London, and then they come back and they're straddling that intermediate senior but looking for senior. They're really gold if they've got ambition. I think that answered your question, but I'm not sure actually now that I reflect. But I think what I'm saying is I would probably go for more intermediate.
I think we've seen a shift. So I've been doing this for 12 years, mostly as a senior lawyer. Are there a lot of really senior lawyers out there looking for these types of roles? Yes. However, what I've seen in terms of, when I'm talking to both people like, Peerpoint or LOD, is clients, particularly those with smaller legal teams, they don't have the space to train a junior lawyer. They absolutely need someone who can come in and hit the ground running, and sometimes they're willing to pay more for the fact that they're not going to have to, teach you how to suck eggs. You're going to walk in, you're going to know what questions you need to ask to deliver the most value from day one. And I've seen that has been a massive shift over the last decade of, there's always been a lot of senior lawyers, but no one's wanted to pay for them. And I think the in-house mindset has changed to, I actually need someone. If you're coming in on a contract, a short-term contract, you're coming in as a secondee, I need you to be able to hit the ground running. I don't have time to sit here and to hold your hand for 3-6 months whilst you get up to speed. I need you to go in tomorrow.
I've seen organisations actually change their brief as they start looking for a junior lawyer, and actually then just compromise and say, okay, let's get someone senior, but let's get someone senior for 3 days a week, because in 3 days a week they're going to achieve a lot more, particularly as we're working in a more flexible, remote, hybrid way. 3 days a week's often, 3 days spread over the 5 days with someone working from home or going into an office 1 day a week. The work gets done at a senior level at the same budget perhaps, or maybe slightly give or take, as a full-time junior resource. So I have seen that evolve in many organisations thinking.
Sorry, one more question.
Hi, Jessica Carroll, Senior Legal Counsel at Container Exchange and also Principal of TBL Legal Solutions, a fractional legal service. I've really enjoyed your panel. Thank you, particularly obviously the parts about fractional legal. And we're kind of sit between, we're between the in-house counsel and between the private practice. And I know you were saying that in the next 7 years that there will be a big uptick, I suppose, in that kind of services, those kind of services being required. And I've actually spoken to quite a few people here today who are either already in that bucket or are looking to venture out into it. And I thought it would be a really good opportunity to ask the panel, what would be some tips that you would give to either existing or budding fractional in-house counsel to get themselves up and running and maybe even get that first gig?
I think the first thing I would say is I wouldn't go out as a fractional GC from day one or a fractional senior legal counsel from day one. I would make sure that I've got something as a transition between being an in-house counsel and perhaps doing some consulting work first, because it is a different world. Stepping into, a new company or doing, splitting your time between 2 or 3 customers over the course of a week, it is different to being an in-house counsel, and your mindset has to be very different. So I would probably, my first tip would be make sure it's the right lifestyle for you. It sounds great, but it can be challenging. So go and make sure it's going to fit you in your life.
And I think also I would add to that, think about the model that you're offering. So are you akin to an external legal service provider where you're having to keep, timesheets and 6-minute intervals? Are you offering a retainer type service? What's your specialisation? What are the organisations that need that specialisation? And network. Meet lots of people today, tomorrow, and stay in touch with people, and really just grow your network.
And I'd kind of add from a different perspective, as a user, I think, of those type of services, what I'd be interested in, as well as it being efficient and economic, is the fit right? Are you the right person to be undertaking this type of work in this industry with this type of people? So it's kind of knowing where the skills gap is or where the resource gap is and being able to match it perfectly, because if you're not going to be able to hit the ground running, then you're not going to be of value, and I'll be going to someone who is.
Thank you, everyone. Rachel, just to close us out, we're out of time, but if you could leave us with one key takeaway or one thing you'd like everyone to remember from this panel about the future, that would be awesome. Just to put you on the spot. No pressure. Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah,
I've got something if you want that I can add. That's kind of
you
really
go for it, Rebecca.
In the context of the questions that are being asked, don't wait for AI to fully mature. Don't wait for the regulatory landscape to catch up. Really think about in your legal teams what is the work that truly needs to be done in-house by your legal team, what can be done by AI and external service providers, and reorchestrate the way that your legal teams work so that you kind of maintain that, I guess, competitive advantage within your legal team going forward into the future.
Thanks, Rebecca. And I guess I'd just add to that, every conversation we have with our clients sort of starts with their strategic objectives and their commercial objectives, and then we work through what they might need from there. So that's always a great place to start in thinking about what you might need, be it resourcing or technology.
Fantastic. Big round of applause, please, for our speakers. The last panel of the day, the future of in-house legal support. That was fantastic. Rebecca, Adrian, everyone, thank you. And we have drinks now. But before you go, please come back for day 2. That's tomorrow. Oh, you're going to do it all over again with different topics, different speakers. And hope you have a great time. But it is party time. Grab a beer, have some fun, and I'll see you at the bar.